All right, this lesson is on factoring by grouping. And you use grouping when you have four terms, and that four terms is going to be important later on when you're trying to decide what kind of factoring you're going to be doing. So we now have four terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you want to do is you want to group them into 2 and 2, and the object is to take out the greatest common factor of each one and have what's left over match exactly, so that turns into a common factor. So I'm going to do this. So here's my first two, and I did this on purpose. I have a negative here. That negative belongs with the 3, so I do not want to put my parentheses that separate the negative and the 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the negative really close to the 3, put the parentheses there, and put a plus there. That's really important when there's a negative in front of there. So now I look in here and I say, okay, what's my greatest common factor? There's no common factor between 3 and 4. X and x squared, we can take out an x. And there's no common factor of y. So if we take out an x, what's left is 3x plus 4y. And here we want to take out this negative. I don't like these negatives. They have this, negative sort of hanging out in front. So we are going to take out, the only thing that they have in common is a -1. So we're going to take out a -1 here. And what's left then is going to be positive 3x plus 4y. If you're doing grouping and this was positive, you still have to take out something. So when there's nothing to take out, when you're doing grouping, you want to take out a 1. In this case, we could take out a -1. And the key is now that this 3x plus 4y and this 3x plus 4y match. And so we can take out a 3x plus 4y, and what's going to be left is the x minus 1. So that's grouping. You can always test whether this works by foiling it back together. Now I have a different example. This is still 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we want to get this factored. So my first thought is like, oh, I'm going to put this into groups of 2. So 2 groups of 2. So we have 3x plus 2 and then negative 3x minus 2y. But I noticed that there's nothing in common that I can take out of there. And in the last part, I said you could take out a 1, but the leftover common factor needs to be the same, and so it won't match this. So what we need to do here is rearrange it so there is a common factor. Notice we need to keep the signs with whatever term it is. So I'm going to notice that there's a 3x here and a negative 3x here. So I'm going to rewrite it. So I'm going to say rewrite. And so it's going to be 3xy minus 3x. And these have a 2 in common. So I'm going to do minus 2y plus 2. So I rearrange it hoping that the leftover will be the same in both cases. So I'm going to group this, and remember what I said about this negative sign. This negative sign needs to go with the 2. So I go like this and always put that plus in between. Otherwise it looks like it's multiplication. So here I can take out a 3x, and what's left is going to be y minus 1. So when the 3x cancels with the 3x, it doesn't just go away, it turns into a 1. And here I'm going to take out a -2. Remember I said I want to take out the negative. And so then I'm left with y minus 1 also. So now I have my y minus 1s that work. So my final factored form will be y minus 1 times 3x minus 2. The key for this one is we need to rearrange the terms. So if you first look at something and it can't be factored, try rearranging it to see if you can possibly get a common factor left over like this. So that's factoring by grouping.